Match day 9, the penultimate match day of 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying in the African zone has concluded, and Algeria and Egypt have joined their North African brethren in claiming 4 out of Africa's total 9 spots at next summer's American World Cup. Still 5 places up for grabs, though. So what we're going to do is recap all of this week's action coming up next on the African Five-a-Side podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the African Football Report on the African Five-a-Side podcast. I'm your host, Maher Mezahi. And as always, this is brought to you by africasaCountry.com. This week on africasaCountry.com, we are looking ahead to the Cameroonian presidential election. So I'm recording this very early in the morning on Saturday, October 11th. Tomorrow, Sunday, October 12th, Cameroon will be having presidential elections. And Paul Biya, who I believe has been in power since, I want to say, 1982, 92 years old, will be presenting himself for yet another presidential term. So Cameroon is a little bit at a crossroads, and there's an article by Shrimo Trust Dohier that I'm going to put in the description below, where he not sure if it's he or she, sorry, explains the stakes of the election. It's a hell of an article in any case. So if you're interested in what's coming up next in a very important country, not just in African football, but of course for the African continent, in Central Africa, please click on the link in the description below. Anyways, if not, and if you're just here to talk about football, then let's go through 5 matches that I watched over the last 3 days. And I started with Central African Republic versus Ghana. And the way I'm going to break down these matches is I'm going to have my pre-match thoughts, what I was thinking before the match, a little bit of match action, and then what are the conclusions we can take away. My pre-match thoughts for this one was that Ghana got to Morocco early to play this match. They seemed to have really good preparation by all accounts. And it's the first time that I was really confident that Ghana would win a match in a long time. Particularly when I saw the starting lineup, because their center back pairing was back. They had Alexander Djiku and Mohamed Salisu. This is the center halves that have pretty much been the starters since the World Cup in 2022. And when they're playing together, usually Ghana tend to do well. Alexander Djiku last month was sort of finalizing a move at the very end of the transfer window, so he wasn't really partaking, but they finally got them back. So that's one check mark. Check mark number 2, Kwasi Sibo in midfield, who plays for Real Oviedo. He had a really good international window in September, and people are wondering if perhaps he's the answer in midfield instead of Salis Abdul Samad, or a few other of the other options that have been sort of experimented with there alongside Thomas Partey. So he was aligned with Thomas Partey in midfield again. Very much looking forward to that, and I think it was the right decision by Otoado. And then the wingers and their strikers are in such good form. Whether it's Jordan Ayew, if we're talking about qualifying, Mohamed Kudus is leading assists in the Premier League. Abdul Fattah Issahaku at Leicester City has had a blistering start to the season there. And then, of course, Antoine Semenyo has been one of the hottest players in the Premier League as well. So when I see the form of those attacking players, the midfield combination, the center half combination, I think to myself, you know what? And they prepared well. I'm pretty confident that Ghana are going to win this match. In addition to all of that, Central African Republic, since they fired Raoul Savoy, bad results and bad governance. And for a team that was close to qualifying for the AFCON at a certain point in time, about halfway through AFCON qualifying, you could see how they just completely took a nosedive since the previous coach left, and since I think they realized that there's nothing left to play for. There seems to be very, very little motivation there. So, from the beginning of this match, it was very clear that Ghana are going to have a huge advantage in the air. From the very beginning, I think in the 4th minute, there's a long throw from Antoine Semenyo. By the way, that's a really good weapon for Ghana that they use. That was dangerous. Besides that, you had 3 Mohamed Kudus corner kicks that were also very dangerous. And then in the 20th minute, a goal comes from a set piece. Mohamed Kudus' corner again, far post, goes to Mohamed Salisu, who scores from a header. So immediately, they established air superiority, to use warfare terms. But throughout the rest of the first half, even though they only went up into halftime 1-0, you could see that they were threatening on set pieces. Jordan Ayew had a free kick in the 38th minute that Antoine Semenyo nodded to Alexander Djiku, and he, on a full volley without even letting the ball bounce. So it was Ayew nodded across by Semenyo, and full volley Alexander Djiku maybe 10 yards away from goal, but he blasted it over. Abdul Fattawi was great in the first half, combining with Mohamed Kudus, was in a little more of a central role. He has that freedom to roam around now, but naturally he tends to drift over to the right wing where he plays with Tottenham. And Abdul Fattawi was sort of on the right wing. So they were combining and they were keeping the distance and very, very close, and they had a lot of proximity. And the way they were combining was really, really good. And I was watching Fattawi and I was thinking, is he finally growing along that projected career path? Because I remember watching this kid when he was 17, 18, thinking to myself, this has to be one of the more talented kids of his generation. I was expecting him to get to this level maybe even earlier, maybe a year or two. And he's very young. Maybe that's harsh on me, but I was expecting him to get to this level even earlier. And it seems like he's finally, after suffering a knee injury, after being ruled out for large parts of last season, finally back to where he needs to be. And I like that they play close together, Kudus and Fatawu, because that leaves Semenyo on the other side of the pitch, isolated against a fullback. And Semenyo is one of those wingers it's like a winger come striker, right? Big, physically built, strong, and he can bully the opposing fullback if a ball's coming in the air or if he's isolated with that fullback. So the fact that they shift the center of gravity over opposite Semenyo, and Semenyo will be isolated against a fullback, I think is a really good point for Ghana as well. Yeah, and the second half was much more of the same. Kudus corner to Kwasi Sibo that's headed wide. Semenyo long throw to Alexander Djiku. The second goal comes in the 52nd minute. Jordan Ayew drops between the lines. So he's playing as a 9. He drops between the lines, turns with some fancy footwork. It was really disorganized defending from Central African Republic, to be honest. Thomas Partey's making a run from deep. He's left alone. Jordan Ayew slides him the ball, and Thomas Partey slots it through. So good finish, good build-up play, poor defending. 17 minutes later, Jordan Ayew corner kick to Alexander Djiku, who scores. So second goal from a set piece. And then in the 71st minute, Mohamed Kudus and Abdul Fattah Isahaku in build-up play, as we mentioned. They get the ball to Gideon Mensah, who heads a cross in, poor clearance, and Jordan Ayew scores, cleans it up 4-0. And I didn't even watch the fifth goal, to be honest, or I don't remember. I didn't put it in my notes. But it was quite clear that Ghana were the better side. It's just been interesting to see how dominant they've been in the air, and I don't know what it's down to. I've heard some whispers that maybe there's modifications to the coaching staff. They might be working with set piece coach. It does look like they're organized there. It's not like Central African Republic are a small team, physically speaking. So it was really interesting to see that, but also the delivery, the quality of the delivery from Jordan Ayew and Mohamed Kudus, I'm sure has a lot to do with that as well. So what are my conclusions from this match? Conclusion number 1, Jordan Ayew, 7 goals, 7 assists with the Ghana Black Stars in this World Cup qualifying campaign. This is the best I've ever seen him play. And I have to be completely honest. At times, I have thought to myself, watching Jordan Ayew play, you know what, if he wasn't Abedi Pele's son, this guy would be playing in the second division somewhere. He would not have 100 caps for Ghana. He, I was just very harsh with him, because I thought of a lot of it was, his name. A lot of it was maybe a little bit of nepotism. I could see the technical quality. I could always see his set piece delivery was good as well. But his physical tools I thought were poor. I thought didn't really see a lot of ambition and mentality. But I think the reason why he's shining right now at the age of 34 is because the way Ghana are playing. So again, they're optimizing their set pieces. He's great at set pieces, and a lot of his goal contributions within the World Cup qualifying campaign have come through set pieces. So that's number 1. Number 2, he has really good runners around him. So think about somebody like Antoine Semenyo, good off the ball more than on the ball, right? So Jordan Ayew wants the ball at his feet, and if he can have wingers that are making runs, past the lines, like somebody like an Antoine Semenyo. Inaki Williams is another one, and that's great for him. And then as well, we can also say that Thomas Partey has been making some good deep runs, as he did in this match as well. So I think the way that Ghana have modified their play, I'm not saying they're doing it specifically for Jordan Ayew, but the way that they've been playing is good for Jordan Ayew. It complements his style of play. So that's probably one of the reasons why, but I think he's probably been maybe a top 3 or a top 4 player in these FIFA World Cup qualifiers, alongside Mohamed Salah, alongside maybe Denny Boenga, Mohamed Amin Amoura from Algeria. Yeah. This is also another note that I wrote for my conclusions, a huge confidence boost for Otto Addo after a disastrous AFCON qualifying. Again, we're not going to be seeing Ghana in 2 months' time. It's crazy to say. But it makes me think that, Otto Addo is probably here until the World Cup now, because they don't have to worry about embarrassing themselves in 2 months now, Ghana. Like, that's a loser's mentality. It's not a good way of looking at it. You should be thinking, you know what, in 2 weeks, 2 months from now, we have a chance to win the AFCON, and that's going to propel us, and that's going to increase our momentum going into the World Cup, where we can shock people again. But another aspect of thinking about it is like, okay, well, what happens if they do get bounced out? Because since 2017, Ghana have been very, very disappointing at the AFCON. If there's another disappointing performance in Morocco, if they had qualified, probably the coach is gone, there's a lot of instability, and that could be even more of a hamper. It could hamper the World Cup preparations even more. So I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, you know what, probably means stability. This probably means Otto Addo is here until the World Cup. And that's probably a big confidence boost as well. Ghana have been really good. This wasn't an easy group. Morocco's group was easy. Algeria's group was easy. Egypt to a lesser extent, but Tunisia, especially with Equatorial Guinea being docked points, was an easy group. This was not an easy group, and Ghana stepped up to the plate time and time again. A few other things that I'm asking myself about Ghana is, right now Jordan Ayew is playing as a 9. Iñaki Williams can play as a 9, but they don't really have that explosive number 9. Somebody with the physical tools. I'm thinking of like somebody like an Osimhen, and I wonder, when the match asks for it, can they switch their style of play up if they don't have any success with set pieces? What is that going to mean? Can they break down a low block? Can they counterattack? These are questions that I'm asking myself. And then finally, before we finish with this match, players like Kwasi Sibo has been really good for 3 matches now. Is he the permanent solution in midfield? Caleb Irenchi, a right back who's technically more of a midfielder, is he the solution at right back? Or is it Alidou Seydou? Or is it neither of them? Abdul Fattawu, how is he going to develop throughout the rest of the year? The development of those players, I think, is going to be key for Ghana going into the World Cup. So just going to keep an eye on that as well. Next match that I watched, albeit a little bit late, was Libya versus Cape Verde, 3-3. Prior to the match, I was asking myself, Cape Verde, they're in a situation they've never been in before. I've been doing international media for the last week to 10 days. Everybody's talking about Cape Verde. Anybody that's covering African football or World Cup qualifying is talking about Cape Verde. They've never had this much media attention on them. How will they react? Because sometimes that can affect players, Also, they're missing Logan Costa, their center half, who's their best defender. They wasn't with them last month as well. He's been suffering from a long-term injury. And the defending hasn't been top-notch for Cape Verde throughout these World Cup qualifiers. So that was another question. Is like, all right, how are they going to defend, especially the individual center halves, Dine and Pico Lopez. Libya also don't have their top team. Just like Cape Verde are missing Logan Costa, Libya are probably missing their best player. He's defensive midfielder, Mu'tasim El Misrati. He plays for AS Monaco. He's one of the rare cases of Libyan players that have come out of the domestic league and have really been a huge success in Europe. Started with Braga, then he went to Besiktas in Turkey, and now, he's at Monaco in France, and he refused to come, and it's been a reoccurring theme for him over the last couple of years now, but they could use him so badly in midfield. But I'm not sure why. I'm assuming it has to do with disagreements with the federation. He refuses to show up. I don't think he's retired internationally. So like Cape Verde, Libya don't have their top team. They're also been recruiting this player named Daniel El Fadli. He plays for Hamburg in the Bundesliga. He didn't show up as well. And so Aliou Cisse said, a few weeks ago, we're not going to be chasing after players. But again, it's not their best team. Also in September, Libya picked up 6 out of 6 points, which put them in this really promising position where prior to the match, they had hope. They're thinking, if we can replicate that success and go grab another 6 points here, they'd have a decent chance of making it to the continental playoff. They're probably not going to qualify directly to the World Cup, but they have a good chance of making the continental playoff. So there was a lot to play for in Tripoli. And they got off to a very fast start. In the second minute, Fadil Salama, who's playing as a right wing back, puts in a cross, and Pico Lopez, puts in an own goal, sort of. his fundamentals are all wrong. He's facing his own goal. He's trying to clear it with his left foot, and he puts it right in the back of the net. But it was good interplay by. There's one player that I was really paying attention to. Is Maher Mezahi, one of the strikers, number 9 for Libya. He has 4 goals in World Cup qualifying, and he has 4 goals in his last 4 matches. So really, since he's been starting for them, so he had some really good interplay there, and he was putting pressure on the Cape Verdean defense, and so they score in the second goal. Sorry, in the second minute, and it's one thing where I'm looking at it, I'm like, you know what, Libya are really good at attacking from the wings, and it's not just Aliou Cisse. I remember Coach Micho was also playing with a 5-3-2. It seems like it's something that coach after coach after coach is deciding, a system that coach after coach after coach is deciding to use, like this 5-2-3, 5-4-1 system, and the wing backs are really important in this system, particularly Fadil Salama, who I think has been good. The next few minutes though, Cape Verde settle in, and they're playing with that 4-3-3 shape. It's the exact same shape that they had at the AFCON, where it's 1 defensive midfielder, 2 central midfielders. The Kevin Pina is the defensive midfielder. Jamiro Montero is left center midfielder, and I don't quite remember who was at the right central midfield position. But it's like that Barcelona 2008, 2009, the Busquets, Xavi, Iniesta stuff. Of course, obviously not at the same level, but they are passing the ball on the ground. They are playing good technical football. They are playing good tactical football. They're not panicking. And really from minute 2, from when Libya scored to minute 20, Cape Verde are all over Libya. And then the first chance for Cape Verde comes in minute 20. Jamiro Montero, the captain, best player on the team, most creative player on the team, has a set piece that's looped over. Libya defended poorly. Kevin Pina gets a sort of toe to it, and it hits the crossbar. It's like a looping shot that hits the crossbar. But you could see there that the Libyan goalkeeper, Wahishi, had a very careless, reckless outing as he was trying to rush Kevin Pina. He didn't need to. Kevin Pina lobs him and he hits the crossbar. In the 20th minute, goal comes for Cape Verde, and it's been coming. Jamiro Montero sort of dancing on the edge of the box, puts in a cross to the back post, and Telmo Arcanjo scores the header. In the 41st minute, Libya retake the lead against the run of play. Again, because even after Cape Verde equalized, Cape Verde were on the front foot. But Libya take the lead through a free kick. It's a long ball into the same striker, Maremi. He chusts the ball. He's like receiving the ball with his back towards goal. He chusts it to Mouad Issa, who dribbles past the Cape Verdean center halves and shoots it at Vojinha. Vojinha pulls off a pretty good save, but parries it to the side. Maremi is following the ball up, and he scores. Maremi is the Al Hilal Benghazi striker that I previously mentioned that has 4 goals in 4 matches. So he's been on fire. Deserved goal for him. And I'm really curious to see if anybody around the African continent is looking to snap him up, because I know that he's going to be receiving a good salary in Libya, and that's where the eyes of the national team will be on him. But I do wonder, this kid, he's not really a kid. He's in his prime. But I think I'd like to see him at another club, playing in the CAF Champions League. In the second half, Libya, they get off to a fast start. Pico Lopez gives up a cheap foul, and from 40 yards out, El Shilwi scores this beauty of a free kick, maybe the best free kick that was scored in this round. Take a look at it if you haven't seen it yet. It's Libya's 3rd goal in that 3-3 match. The thing is that Cape Verde didn't even set up a wall because it was so far out, and he just sprints and hits the ball like he's Roberto Carlos, and it's one of those that, hits the net as it's still rising. It was that powerful. Virginio probably should have done better. Like, if there's no need for a wall, they shouldn't be scoring on you, but it was a beautiful strike. 3-1. In Libya, now after 3-1, they start really taking momentum, because really for most of the first half, Cape Verde were the better side. But in the second half, Libya, as they continue to increase their lead, they're the ones that are growing into the game. They have scissor kicks, they hit the post, actually 2 times. They hit the post 2 times? Yeah, I think they hit the post 2 times in the second half. And then there's a 5-minute spell where the game completely shifts on its head, and it's in the 76th minute. Wahishi, the goalkeeper, I don't even know who, somebody tried to play a through ball. Nobody ran after it from Cape Verde, and it's a simple thing where he just has to reach his arms down, pick up the ball, and that's it. And instead, he lets the ball roll between his legs, and it's the worst goalkeeping mistake that I've seen maybe since the Ivorian goalkeeper against Sierra Leone. Who's the name of the Ivorian goalkeeper? Bamba number 16, I forget his name, but it was against Sierra Leone where he's like trying to collect the ball and he falls on his face, and when he falls on his face, he almost like stuns himself and the ball slips under his arm, and Sierra Leone equalized against Cape Verde at the 2022 AFCON, I believe, in Cameroon. Yeah. So that was like Badra Sangare. That was I think his name is Badra Sangare, the Ivorian goalkeeper. But this was just as bad. This one was worse actually. And it's in the 76th minute, and so yeah, it's so bad that you almost think you get suspicious. You're like, is this fixed? Is there some match fixing going on right here? Did he take some money to try and help Cape Verde get back into the match? I'm not accusing anybody. I'm just saying like it was that bad where it's like almost absurd. Where it's like, what's going on over here? And that completely shifted the momentum of the match on its head. Cape Verde, they realized, you know what, we can get something here. Jamiro Montero, Willie Semedo are all over the place. And they have the chance to equalize in the 93rd minute. Nuno Costa is played through, and it's just him, the goalkeeper, and Jamiro Montero on his left. And he has the chance to just square the ball to Jamiro Montero, and Jamiro Montero can tap the ball in. But instead, Nuno Costa tries to substitute. He tries to shoot on net, and the ball, and it's saved. Actually, decent save by Ruhishi. But they could have, when you think about it, they could have scored that, and then uh, I don't even have. Oh, sorry, I didn't even talk about the goal in the 82nd minute. So 5 minutes after the gaff, sorry, Jamiro Montero crossed again like the first goal, and Willie Semedo scores, and that makes it 3-3. So this Nuno Costa ball that he could have scored to Jamiro Montero would have been 4-3, and it could have qualified right there. But he refuses to, and yeah. And then to make things worse, because Cape Verde are still pushing in the 95th minute. Again, they're pushing. They play a through ball, not offside. It's whistled offside, but if there was VAR, it wasn't offside. And I think it's Jamiro Montero that scores, but again, it's called offside, so it doesn't really matter. And Cape Verde are hard done by, and the match finishes 3-3. So I think I spoke about this match for a long time, maybe 10 minutes or so. But it really, in terms of action and entertainment, this was the best match of the round by far, especially with all the stakes that were, there for Libya and for Cape Verde. It's one of the more memorable matches I think I'll ever, not ever, but I've seen in World Cup qualifying in a long period of time. So what are the conclusions that we can take from this match? There are many. And at the same time, I don't want to read too much into it because it was so chaotic. I think maybe it was an outlier. First of all, Cape Verde are leading the group, yeah? They've conceded 8 goals in World Cup qualifying. That's the most out of any group leader in World Cup qualifying in Africa. Again, if they had Logan Costa, their center half, who plays at Villarreal, their best player probably, and their best defender for sure, I'm sure that would have helped. But this needs fixing. Particularly Roberto Lopez, the center half you're going to see, he mostly speaks in the media a lot because he speaks English, and I think he's half Irish. So he's always talking to the BBC and everything. But he's been, I think, of the 3 goals, he has varying degrees of responsibility for all 3 goals. Some of them are entirely his fault. Perhaps we could say like the own goal, the first one. And then the others are, he gave away the foul for the free kick that Ishilwi scores in the second one. Yeah, so he needs to be better. And even Dine, his partner in center half, was not good. It's not like I was watching it, Mac. It's not like they're not defending well as a team. They're making individual mistakes. The center halves are. So that's a problem. My second point of observation is that Cape Verde showed real mental strength. To be a group leader, to go to the World Cup, you need to show mental strength. What I mean by that is they were down 3-1 away from home, and they know that if they win just against Eswatini, they'll be okay, even if they lose this match in Libya. But they still had the mental strength to say, you know what, no, we need to come back into this match and try to win it, and they should have won it. If there was VAR, they should have won it. And that's my third point is we need VAR in World Cup qualifiers. Cape Verde, this would be the Cinderella story of the American World Cup in 2026. Cape Verde might miss the World Cup. It's not likely, but if Eswatini beat them, they'll probably still go to the continental playoff. But if Eswatini beat them and they miss the World Cup, what are we going to say? It's almost like, okay, how Ireland missed the World Cup in 2010 because of that Thierry Henry thing. It's not as egregious, but we need the VAR for the next round of World Cup qualifying in 2030, and I think we'll have it. Djibouti beat Egypt. I didn't watch this match to be completely honest, but from the stuff that I've read, people were saying that like Egypt never got out of second gear really. They just had too much quality. Mohamed Salah scores a brace though. He's only 4 goals away from tying Hussam Hassan, his coach, as the all-time leading goal scorer of the Egyptian national team. And also Salah's brace makes it now 20 goals in FIFA World Cup qualifying matches. That's the most in African history. He surpasses Didier Drogba, who had 18. So congratulations to him. Again, it's sometimes we're too harsh with him. We say he's out of form because he hasn't played well for 3 matches for Liverpool. Um, but when it's all said and done, he has a chance to be considered the greatest African player of all time. That's the first time I've said that about Mohamed Salah. I've been, I tend to be critical with the best, but I think that's absolutely true. And so we need to appreciate him while he's here. Somalia versus Algeria. My pre-match notes are that Algeria is benefiting from what I've been calling Moroccan home advantage, Moroccan hospitality, where they get to play their away match at home. Somalia also benefits, of course, because they'll have really good facilities. Usually the accommodation is paid for. I don't know if the flights are paid for or not. And Somalia will also get to play their second match in Algeria as well. So they're supposed to be hosting 2 matches, I think, and they get to play both of them in Algeria for free. So they agreed to play their away match against their opponent at home, which is at their opponent's home, which is crazy. But anyways, Algeria, they want to do that, of course, because they want to qualify in front of their crowd, and it's going to be, nice and fuzzy and warm and everything. The second point, really, that I was writing about in my notes is, will Vladimir Petkovic make changes? Because the September window was really poor in terms of performance. Not results, but performance was poor. It took 4 out of 6 points. And the Algerian FA president met with Petkovic, and he indicated that changes need to be made. And so what kind of changes will Petkovic make? That's what I was thinking to myself. Will he bench Riyad Mahrez? Was a big, big point of debate in Algeria prior to this match. And he didn't. But Riyad Mahrez showed up. In the second minute, Hisham Boudaoui, who's probably been after Mohamed Amin Amoura for Algeria, leading goal scorer of World Cup qualifiers alongside Denis Bouanga. Hisham Boudaoui, the midfielder from Nice, has been Algeria's best player. He creates this goal in the second minute by making runs from midfield. If you go back to that 2019 Algerian team that won the AFCON, one of the main strengths for them was Riyad Mahrez has the ball on the right flank on his left foot, and Sofiane Feghouli at the time was making those runs in behind the defense every single time. And Ismail Ben Nasser and Adlan Guediora would hold the fort in midfield. Hisham Boudaoui is doing this almost to perfection. He's picking his runs and he's making them, and Riyad Mahrez is finding him, and that's exactly what happened. So Mahrez, this time Boudaoui makes the run, and then he holds up the play. He passes it back to Riyad Mahrez. Riyad Mahrez dribbles past 1 or 2 Somalian defenders and crosses the ball to Mohamed Amin Amoura, and they score a goal. Beautiful. In the 18th minute, it's a well-worked short corner for Algeria between left back Joan Hadjam and Faris Shaibi, midfielder for Eintracht Frankfurt, and Hadjam is a left back for, I think he's playing in Switzerland, Young Boys Bern maybe. And the ball finds its way to Riyad Mahrez on the far post, all by himself. He hits it on the half volley. Beautiful goal. So 1 goal, 1 assist for Riyad Mahrez. And I put in the 24th minute, Algeria understand that they're going to win this match because they're playing in Somalia. Somalia is the lowest ranked team, with all due respect, in African football, and you're playing at home, and you're up 2-0 in the 24th minute, and it already feels like they're downshifting, and it feels like, you know what, let's pass it along the back line horizontally, the windshield wipers, tack, and the only real interesting thing that I saw for the rest of the first half was Mohamed Amin Amoura, best player for this Algerian national team, plays for Wolfsburg. If you haven't had a chance to watch him yet, he's dynamite. He's so quick. One of the best players on the continent during these World Cup qualifiers. He's been killing people in the air, and he's like 5'7". He's shorter than me. He's like leaping 40 inches, heading balls. Like he scored off of 2 crosses in this match. And yeah, like again, he's 5'7". So that was really interesting. And yeah, in the 57th minute, that's how they scored the third goal. Riyad Mahrez with great feet on the edge of the box, similar to how Jamiro Montero was doing. He puts in a looping cross to the far post, and Mohamed Amin Amoura scores with a header. 8 goals and 6 assists for him. So 14 goal contributions, just like Jordan Ayew, but he has more goals and less assists. The only changes that I thought Pekovic made that were interesting was that he started a right back named Rafik Belghali, who's a starter for Hellas Verona in Italy. Um, and he had a very good game. He was one of the best 3 or 4 Algerian players. And it's such a relief to see that because Youssef Attal, the right back for Algeria since 2017, um, is really inconsistent and really injury prone. When he's good, but you can't really rely on him. And so having another right back in his place that's playing regular, minutes in one of the top 5 European leagues that had his debut and was very, very impressive. It's such a relief to do that. And you think to yourself, so I understand so much the Algerian fan frustration with Vladimir Pekovic because there are so many good players that we haven't tested for no reason. Again, like against Somalia, you can test players. Um, Cote d'Ivoire played against Seychelles. They won 7-0. I didn't watch the match, but go look at the starting lineup. They were experimenting with players because he knows we can beat Seychelles with not even our C team, our D or E or F team for Cote d'Ivoire. Again, with all due respect to the Seychelles. Algeria playing against Somalia and they're playing with, why are you playing with Riyad Mahrez? Why are you playing with, I don't know, experiment with players, see what you have in your arsenal. Because now we just learned a valuable, piece of information that we have a pretty good right back. And again, you don't want to read too much into it because he had a great match against Somalia. Again, sorry to all my Somalian brothers and sisters watching this. I hope you guys are at the point where I stop talking about you like this. And I hope that will be soon. But with all due respect, this current iteration of the Somalian national team, it's hard to read too much into good performances from players because at the moment it's weak opposition relative to Algeria. Other than that, though, if Riyad Mahrez is playing at this level heading into the AFCON, that's good news for Algeria. Okay, so that's good news. Issa Mondi, the center half, another one of these old tired players, also playing pretty good, to be honest. I have to be fair and objective. With Lille in the Champions League against Roma, he was incredible. He's played pretty good against Somalia. Again, I know it's Somalia, but he's playing pretty good. So if the experienced players for Algeria step up, we only need to fix the central defensive midfield position. Right now, Nabil Bentaleb is playing there. He's not a starter for Lille in French Ligue 1. We need another central defensive midfield, especially if you have Belghali, who's a very attacking right back, and you have Rayan Aït-Nouri from Manchester City, who's another very attacking fullback. What happens is both of them tend to push up. You only have the 2 center halves. One of them, Issa Mondi, is not very fast. So if you have Victor Osimhen, he's really going to struggle. So you need a really good, effective, cleaner upper in defensive midfield, and I don't think Nabil Bentaleb is that. So that's really the only thing. If the experienced players step up, we only need one more player in that central defensive midfield. And last point for Algeria versus Somalia is at the end of the match, the fans were singing "Sha'b yurid la Coupe d'Afrique," which is the people are asking for the African Cup of Nations, which is kind of crazy, because win in Morocco, that would be nuts. But it shows you that there's a mentality shift already. They just qualified for the World Cup, but all they're asking for is we want to win the African Cup of Nations. And the coach himself said in the post-match press conference, our mindset shifts starting now. The next match and November friendlies are all going to be geared towards AFCON preparation. So they have to switch the gear here. I also watched Zimbabwe versus South Africa. It was interesting watching Zimbabwe. It's been a long time I didn't watch Kama Billiat and Knowledge Musona play together. Nightmares of the 2017 opening match in Gabon for Algeria, 2-2. Kama Billiat tortured the Algerian right back on the day, Mohamed Miftah from USM of Algiers. But brilliant players, of course. So it warmed my heart, actually, to see those two on the pitch. I was thinking, though, I was also thinking as I was looking at the Zimbabwean national team, man, their starting lineup is pretty damn good. I don't know whatever happened to Tino Kadewere. I used to really rate him. He's not starting matches anymore, but they have those. If you have Musona and Billiat in form, then you have Marvelous Nakamba, and you have why am I blanking on names now? There's another midfielder playing at Wolves, I think. It's gonna bother me. So please bear with me for just a few seconds. Yeah, Marshall Munetsi, Marvelous Nakamba, and Jordan Zamora is a pretty damn good midfield. Teenage Hadebe has been a great player for Zimbabwe for the last 7, 8 years. Now he's playing in the MLS. Divine Lunga, if you follow South African football, you know how much of a reliable player he is. Mamelodi Sundowns left back. So yeah, like I was looking at their lineup, and these guys are pretty good. And Michael Nice, I've heard really good things about him as well. So I was going to this match like very curious about Zimbabwe. As for South Africa, it was good to see that Lyle Foster was, still starting after he had a very good September window, as did Sipho Mbule. So it was good to see these two start again. But I thought going into this match with a double pivot of Teboho Mokoena and Sithole was too conservative. I much preferred, like against, I think it was Lesotho when he played Jaden Adams and Mokoena. Like I want, or Talente Mbata and Mokoena. I want to see, a number 8 next to Mokoena. I don't want to see a double pivot, 2 6s, and Sithole can be conservative. I know Mokoena can push up at times, but I'd rather he's the 6 and you have an 8 next to him. That's the only thing I thought about the starting lineup. Otherwise, it was good to see, players like Apolis. Good to see Mbukazi still starting. Good to see the Sundowns fullbacks back. Anyways, Osman Apolis, I thought was very active in the first half. He was probably one of the better players for South Africa. Sipho Mbule as well. I thought they were linking up very well, which makes sense when you consider they play for the same club. Osman Apolis, the only thing I thought was maybe his end product needs to be a little bit better when it comes to crossing the ball when he's in the final third of the pitch. In the 23rd minute, I wrote this game is pretty boring. In the 26th minute, Mbule and Apolis combine. Mbule hits the ball with venom and topspin, bounces in front of the Zimbabwean goalkeeper, who parries it out for a corner. In the 43rd minute, we have Mohalan Kota hitting the post. I thought he was not as active as Apolis, but when he did get the ball, he did some decent things. At halftime, Tapelo Morena and Batuzi Obas come on. And again, I'm thinking to myself, like, do we have to bring on... I think he replaced the leg for leg substitution, but are we still continuing with the double pivot? And then Nigeria score early in the second half. And I know I'm talking about Zimbabwe versus South Africa, but whenever you have a situation like this where teams are paying attention to what's going on in their group as well, that shifts the mentality, when you're playing a match. So Nigeria scored early in the second half. So now okay, Nigeria's beating Lesotho. Benin at the time are still tied with Rwanda, 0-0, right? Urgency has to pick up. And that's like the only criticism that I've had, that I'm going to have about South Africa really is in the first half, is urgency needs to pick up from the very beginning of this match. You know that your fate is in your hands as things stand if you win. I don't care if you're in the 6th minute or the 7th minute or the 9th minute. I'm not saying you have to be sprinting everywhere. If the ball goes out, you're sprinting out of bounds, grabbing things, and you're playing, at 100% the entire time. But you need to be playing with very clear intention of going forward and scoring goals. I didn't get that impression that South Africa were intentional about being direct and about winning early on. It sort of felt like, you know what, Benin are tied with Rwanda, Nigeria tied with Lesotho. Let's just, stroll along. But in the 55th minute, Nigeria scores, and you could see that I think South Africa starts to panic. Again, in the 62nd minute, I put, like, maybe don't use a double pivot anymore. And then just 1 minute later, Knowledge Musona sent off for, I think, a deserved second yellow card, as he hacked at Sebisi. And yeah, South Africa were just struggling. I think it almost made the game even more difficult for South Africa, the sending off, because now they have to break down a low block. And, breaking down low blocks, Morocco have been struggling with it. I think it's such a difficult thing to do. It's not easy, particularly in international football, when you don't have time to work on things like combinations and runs and things like that. You have 2-3 practices before the match. So they're struggling to break down the low block, but they do have a pair of very good chances late in the match. Lyle Foster hits the post with a cross goal shot right on the ground. And I think there's also And Boule just shoots just wide a few times. I thought his running was really good, even late into the match. Usually with those body types, speaking from experience, you can tend to gas out, but he was all over the place, sprinting, defending. He was very, very good again. And then in the 90th minute, Zimbabwe almost scored twice, and that would have been complete disaster. There's like a 40-yard free kick. I don't know who took it, and then Jordan Zamora hits the post. He glances the outside of the post, but still he hits the post in the 90th minute. So yeah, my conclusion really was, look, he needed to have more urgency from the beginning of this match. It almost felt like South Africa were too confident, particularly in the first half. Um, Little bit of luck needed as well. And Kota hits the post, Foster hits the post. There's a goal line clearance, I believe. So yeah, a little bit of uh, luck that was missing, but at the same time, you played 30 minutes with an extra man advantage. You're playing at home. This match was supposed to not be at home. You're playing in Durban. Uh, no excuses, And this is again where SAFA needs to take full responsibility, because South Africa wouldn't even be in this position where they have to worry about drawing a match this late on, if they were not docked those 3 points and if they still had those goals when it comes to goal difference. So falls on ultimately Danny Jordan's responsibility. Finally, I watched the last match I watched was Lesotho versus versus Nigeria. Nigeria comes into this match, I was 4-4-2, and I like it because for me that signals that they understand that they need to win, but also that they need to score goals. I think they understood that from the very beginning, whereas South Africa were more like, oh, you know what, we probably just need to win, and that translated again to lack of urgency. But Nigeria come into this first half, I think, with more urgency than South Africa. They understood that they needed to score goals. However, the only thing that scares me with Nigeria is that midfield, man. It's so freaking hollow, of Alex Iwobi and Wilfred Ndidi. At times, I took screenshots because now I can watch matches on FIFA Plus because I'm in North America at the moment visiting family. At times, it's like their team shape is like a circle. You have the four defenders, you have even the midfielders, and Didi would drop closer to the defense and on a side, and Alex Iwobi would go to the complete opposite side. And you're thinking to yourself, wow, you guys are leaving yourself, because one of the main like cardinal rules when you're playing football is like, okay, don't let the team attack you from central midfield. And you're thinking to yourself, if they lose the ball cheaply here, Lesotho are going to have a direct route to attack them from the center of the pitch, which you don't usually want to give up. Again, these are like things, these are like basic fundamental rules that you sort of learn when you're playing football growing up. Not necessarily saying they're gospel. And obviously Nigeria don't think they're gospel, or Eric Shell doesn't. But it's just interesting seeing their team shape at times. I swear at times it looked like a circle like this with nothing in midfield. So I get nervous about the midfield at times, particularly because I don't think Alex Iwobi is a central midfielder. I think he can play that role, and he does a good job of being vertical, unlike some of South African midfielders in that first half. But still, they make me nervous, particularly when it comes to counterattacks. Also, a 4-4-2 with Tolu Arokodare and Victor Osimhen. Interesting combination. I would not want to be a defender defending those guys when crosses coming into the box. Particularly Arokodare, but Osimhen as well. The only problem was, at times, you could tell they were coached prior to the match to not make the same run. So one of them would drop at times, the other would drop at others. But a lot of the times you could see that their natural instincts took over as, being single target men, and they were occupying some of the same spaces in the box at times as well. And so it wasn't as dynamic and as complementary as you would have liked it to be. You could tell, again, they were coached to try and be complementary, but their natural instincts took over at times. They would occupy some of the same spaces. Finally, no Ola Aina, so Benjamin Frederick is the right back. I was very excited to watch him again because against South Africa in September, Mbokazi really, really impressed me. But Benjamin Frederick did as well. He was playing, I think, as a center half in that match. Young defender, just 20 years old or 21 years old, I think. And this time he's playing as a right back. So again, another opportunity to watch him, and I was really excited to see how he would play. And spoiler alert, he played very, very well. The amount of time, and again, Victor Osimhen didn't really play in matches. I think he played 45 minutes in September. So I was watching him. He's one of my favorite players to watch live. I've said this previously on the podcast, and I was so happy to just watch him again. The amount of runs, or the amount of passes that Nigeria make over the top of defenses with Victor Osimhen playing, probably quadruples. I don't have advanced statistics. I don't have that kind of money to subscribe to those platforms and everything. But I'm just making an estimate. I think it probably triples or quadruples. he is such a weight on the opposing defense. I've said that a million times, but particularly when he makes those diagonal runs in behind them. And the problem for Nigeria is that they usually don't have the midfielders that can make that pass, particularly from deep over the top. They were so inaccurate with that pass for the vast majority of this match until the very end when they end up scoring that second goal. But if they can do that, and they can do that well, if they had a Cesc Fabregas, which is a crazy thing to say because any team can say, oh, I'd love to have a Cesc Fabregas. But if they can have like that kind of Trent Alexander-Arnold that can make those long 40-yard passes over the top, man, you would get even more out of Victor Osimhen. But yeah, I wrote in my notes in the 5th minute, the amount of balls over the top when VO9 is in the squad is noticeably more. Lean into that. And even you could see his urgency. Even in the 5th minute, I wrote demeanor. Look at his demeanor. And that's the thing about Victor Osimhen. At times he's criticized because they say he's yelling at his teammates. I don't see it as yelling. It's like when you play with your older brother and he's like, come on, let's go. Like he's urging them on. He's not being mean. He's just like, that's the way he is, man. And you don't want to take that away from him. So yeah, he was showing urgency. In the 12th minute, we had some quick passing on the left flank. Ademola Lookman finds Oroka Dare. The ball is headed just over. In the 25th minute, I put a lot of wasted runs by Osimhen because those long passes were a little bit inaccurate. The goalkeeper from Lesotho, Morane, really did a great job of being a sweeper keeper, and particularly in the first half against Victor Osimhen. Other than that, not much to really speak about. Ademola Lookman, I thought, was dropping too deep at times. I still don't think we've found the perfect position for him, and I think he was very frustrated in this match, and he showed it. He was visibly frustrated. But we're going to talk about Ademola Lookman in a little bit later after the match, after we recap the match action. In the second half, Benjamin Frederick came to life. In the first half, he was more of a defender and he didn't let anything get by him. In the second half, again, this is a center half playing as a right back, got down the wing at least 6 or 7 times. So in the 55th minute, gets down the wing, good cross. Moses Simon picks up the ball. He gets a shot on target, hits somebody's outstretched arm, and there's a penalty. Nigeria has a penalty. Nobody fights about it. The captain, William Troost-Ekong, coolly slots the ball in. Big penalty for him because, like Roberto Lopez from Cape Verde, I think he's had a pretty poor World Cup qualifying campaign. He hasn't been his best so far. So this will probably just add to his confidence. In the 56th minute, one minute later, another great run by Benjamin Frederick. In the 58th minute, and now you can see Nigeria, they just scored a goal, and two minutes later, Wilfred Ndidi is making a run into the box, and he should have had another penalty after a great layoff by Tolu Orokodare. So Nigeria, they know it's not just about the 3 points. And I admire this, and they have no other choice, really. But you could tell that they had a lot more urgency than South Africa did. In the 60th minute, Ndidi has a header that goes over the bar after a Moses Simon cross. It's good that they're not resting on their laurels. It's very mature. And Eric Shaw makes a good sub in the 63rd minute. Tolu Orokodare comes off. He's been great in September. He's been really good in this World Cup qualifiers. But again, they were just occupying the same spaces as Osimhen. And Akor Adams, the former player of Montpellier, I think he's currently playing in Spain. I think he scored against Barcelona prior to the international break with Sevilla. He comes on. In the 63rd, so immediately after, Ademola Lookman does a great job, I think, of pressing. Gets the ball to Victor Osimhen. For the through ball, Victor Osimhen chips Morane, the Lesotho goalkeeper, and the ball hits the bar, bounces to Moses Simon, fancy footwork, gets a shot off, cleared off the line. So again, great urgency within the span of 11 minutes. 1 goal and 3 clear goal scoring opportunities for Nigeria. 70th minute, Ademola Lookman is subbed off, and he is not happy to be replaced. And even in the match, he was booked because, to be fair, like those are very annoying when you have defenders napping at your heels. And he had that, nipping at your heels, and he had that, and he was getting frustrated, and he pushed a Lesotho defender. But you could tell he was just frustrated by the way the match was going. I don't think he found his role today. And Samuel Chukwueze comes on. And as soon as he came on, Nigeria looked even better. Even though they were good for those 10 minutes prior to that substitution, as soon as he came on, they looked even better. Not because he's a better player than Ademola Lookman. Because Samuel Chukwueze was playing on the right wing, Moses Simon goes to his left wing where he's more natural. All of a sudden, the two wingers were playing in natural positions because when Lookman is playing on the left wing, which is tends to be his natural position, but not in a 4-4-2, usually in a 4-3-3, where he's closer to the striker. But when they made the switch and you have Simon playing on left wing, his natural position, you have Chukwueze playing on the right wing, his natural position, and also they were playing more narrow, and it almost became like a diamond midfield, and there were more passing lines and lanes. And it was a lot easier. It was a lot more fluid as a result. And Chukwueze became like an extra midfielder. Um, yeah, in the 78th minute, Chukwueze plays a through ball to Osimhen. Osimhen does like a Zinedine Zidane roll against Deportiva La Coruña, hits the shot low, smacks it off of the bar. So like they had like South Africa, a lot of chances that hit the bar as well. And then in the 80th minute, Nigeria put Lesotho to the sword, and it's counterattack. Like the good old Pesero days. And I still maintain that with Victor Osimhen, Nigeria are a better counterattacking team. They're a better out of possession team than they are, trying to hold on to possession for more than 60% of the ball and trying to break down low blocks. So this time it's Chukwueze helps win the ball back. Wilfred Ndidi plays a long ball over the top, and it's really I write like it's the first time that Wilfred Ndidi, because he was very sloppy with some of his long passes, but it's the first time that he gets one of these long passes perfectly right. And Victor Osimhen gets in behind the center half and the fullback, and he's off to the races. He unselfishly, unlike Nuno Costa with Jamiro Montero for Cape Verde in the final minute of that match, this time he squares the ball to Akor Adams. Akor Adams one step over, and a very cool finish. So 2-1, 2-0 in the 80th minute. In the 83rd minute, Lesotho pull one back, and it's a corner kick, standard routine corner kick. Stanley Nwabali, the goalkeeper, I think he calls for it because he's running out, and you have Akor Adams, the goal scorer. He's ready to head the ball out, but he lets it go. He tucks his head like this, and he ducks, and he lets it go because I think Nwabali called for it. And Nwabali fumbles the ball, and Lesotho score off of that. And you could see they start blaming each other. And I think Nwabali's saying you should have headed it clear, and Akor Adams is saying like, even if he didn't call for it, it's very distracting for a defender because he could see the bright red shirt of Nwabali coming in behind him, and he's thinking, he's come out, so he's gonna grab it, right? So just lack of communication there. And then it nearly happens again in the 90th minute. Same thing with Nwabali, this time with Sami Ajayi. He's coming out for it, and there's absolutely no need for him to come out. The ball's at the 20-yard line. It's like outside of the box, or just at the limit of the box. Sami Ajayi has a pretty routine clearance that's coming up probably with his head. And Nwabali's coming out. I don't know if he screams for it or not, but there's another mix-up. And Lesotho nearly equalized, which would have been it would have been very, very bad for Nigeria. But they don't equalize, and Nigeria wins 2-1. Very important victory. Not an easy victory. This group with Lesotho, Rwanda, and Benin, I think from the outside perspective, people look at those teams and they say it's a weak group. Those are weak teams. But even teams like Lesotho or Rwanda, they're very difficult to score against. They're very difficult to break down. I should have pulled up the stats. Let me pull them up really quickly. So in 9 matches, Lesotho only conceded 12 goals, which is not bad for a 5th place team. In 9 matches, Rwanda, which is in 4th place, have only conceded 6 goals. In 9 matches, they've only conceded 6 goals. And even Zimbabwe, they've only conceded 11. So it's hard to break these teams down. And so I wouldn't scoff at even a 2-1 victory for Nigeria. My conclusions for this match: Benjamin Frederick is the real deal and a solution for the Super Eagles for a long time, I hope. The Nigeria midfield really still scares me, and they're missing deep, accurate passing from midfield. I said, look what happened when Ndidi connected on one of those. Victor Osimhen was sprung free. He squares the ball to Akor Adams, and he score. And then I also put Victor Osimhen. It'd be nice I think he needs to score more goals for Nigeria. When I look at like how many goals he has, let me look it up really quickly. 26 and 41. That's not bad at all. Of course, it's not bad at all. But I do think sometimes, like he could do a lot better. Especially when I see what he does with Napoli and Galatasaray. When I look at his goal scoring tallies, 2021 he had 5 goals. Great. 2022, 5 goals. pretty damn good. 5 goals in 8 matches, 5 goals in 4 matches in 2022, 5 goals in 5 matches in 2023. In 2024, now this includes the AFCON where he had a little bit of a dry spell, 3 goals in 11 matches. In 2025, 3 and 3. So I don't know. I just think at times, like that's how much I expect of him because I think he's that great. I think his goal scoring record should be a little bit better for Nigeria, particularly in matches like this. But anyways, we're running out of time, so just very quickly, the permutations for Group C now, because this is going to be the most important thing going into match day 10. If Benin win, Benin are through, right? Let me just look up the permutations really quickly. Sorry, I had this and then... If Benin win, Benin are through. If Benin draw, South Africa has to win by more than 2 goals to go through. So remember, South Africa are playing against Rwanda at home. If Benin lose to Nigeria, Nigeria has a chance to go through to the World Cup, but they need South Africa to not win against Rwanda. That's basically, those are the basic permutations, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So yeah, I think everybody's going to be watching both of those matches. I'm going to try to have it on double screens this upcoming few days. And yeah, just recap. Those are my observations from the last 5 days. Out of those last 5 matches, you can see I'm very tired. It's 4 a.m. here in Canada. If you have any observations from other matches that I didn't mention, I would welcome them in the comments below. I'm always trying to learn from you guys as much as you learn from me. And yeah, we'll be back probably tomorrow, or at the very least, yeah, probably tomorrow, previewing the next slate of matches for match day 10, the final match day of World Cup qualifiers. Speak to you all very soon. Peace.